All right, I call the meeting of the North Syracuse Board of Education to order. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic which stands
one
nation
under God,
with
liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to start just getting my other screen going here. Excuse me a minute. We have with us today the valedictorian and salutatorian of the North Syracuse, Cicero North Syracuse High School, excuse me. And we're here to recognize them. So, well, at CNS, Madeline has been active. We have Madeline Thorne, I'm sorry. Madeline Thorne, our valedictorian. Madeline has been active, member of Honor Society, Principals Cabinet, Legislative Committee, the Action Positivity Project, Math League, and Class of 2020. She was the captain of the girls varsity swimming and diving team last season, which she has been part of since 9th grade. Next fall, Maddie will be attending St. Bonaventure University, majoring in accounting and diving for the Division I swim and dive team. So welcome, Maddie. And Alexander Nobles, there he is. Alexander is a multi-sport athlete where he has participated in football, lacrosse, indoor track, and wrestling. He's been an active member in Science Olympiad, Principals Cabinet, Captain's Club, and was an officer in the National Honor Society. Next fall, Alex plans on majoring in biomolecular science and obtaining his master's degree in bioscience and biotechnology at Clarkson University. That's impressive for both of you. Thank you very much. Do we have comments about them?
Yeah, I'll share a little. It's been a great privilege to work with both of these students closely. It's not too long ago, as they were coming into their sophomore year, that I took them up to Camp Oswegatchie at our leadership camp. And I've worked with them so closely over the past 3 years. I've got to know them individually, and what they've done for our student body is absolutely remarkable. And it's a privilege. You know, they both serve on my cabinet with me, and here they are, valedictorian, salutatorian, respectfully. And I'm definitely going to miss them next year. With them, 14 others are graduating from my principal's cabinet. So big shoes to fill, but they're going to be successful at the next level. I know that.
I just wanted to take a second to express my appreciation because as a large school district, they are the epitome of leaders. Everything they touched, they exemplified what a leader needs to be and do. Both of them have served on different committees between policy, legislative. We're going to be reading about both of them in the near future. I am convinced, because they are just that strong and that good on everything that they do. And St. Bonaventure for Maddie, and Alex going to Clarkson. The one thing I will tell Alex, dress warm because the North Country gets a little cold up there. And but we will be reading about them in the near future. I am confident of that. And I'm just pleased that I had the opportunity to get to work with them this year.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I don't have an action here. Is that correct? Just we're recognizing, okay. And Alexander, I think in biomolecular science, maybe you can solve our problems here for us.
That's the plan.
Paul, this is me. Paul, I just want to thank Alex for all his feedback and participation he's given over the last 3 years for our policy committee.
And to piggy ride on that, thanks to Maddie for being a member of the legislative committee and bringing up some issues that are important to CNS students in the long run. So thank you, Maddie.
Yes, thank you, because she's been on that committee quite a while, back when I was chairing that, which was only last year. So yes, thank you, and hopefully we'll be seeing you back in the community. We could use great people like you when you're all done as you go forward. I don't have words for what your senior year has been like and what it continues to be like. It's just nothing any of us have ever seen. So my heart goes out to you for that. Again, I just I don't have words to even share that would compensate you for the the losses you've shared. And I do want you to know that it's I know it's been tough and it will continue to be, but everything will be good down the road. I'm sure of that. So thank you. We have the senior spotlight part B. Is that something we're going to run on the video, or was it just shared with the board?
We were gonna run it on video.
I'm just
Okay.
getting ready to start it up now.
Okay, thank you. There it is. Okay.
Is it showing up?
No,
All right. Let's try this again.
I can hear it.
Can you see it now?
There it is.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Can't hear it.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
What you're seeing there is Light the Night.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry about the technical difficulties. I assume we can find a link to that. I see that it's on YouTube, a link to that on the website. So people.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
on
hopefully-
Dropbox too. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next we have a data protection officer update. I believe Dr. Leahy is probably going to do that. So,
You're muted, Chris.
Paul, before we move on, I don't know, do we need to let Maddie and Alex go? I don't want them to sit through the rest of the meeting.
oh, they are welcome to stay to see this update, or they're welcome to leave the meeting. I'll leave it totally up to them.
I know it's
And,
exciting stuff.
And Mr. Thorne can weigh in on that also.
Thanks for having them tonight.
Thank you,
Let us-
Bill.
let 'em know.
Thank you, guys, and
Thanks.
congratulations again.
Thanks for having us. And if you guys tune in to Channel 6 right now, me and Maddie are going to be on the TV for Scholar Athlete Section 3.
Oh, awesome.
Fantastic.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Alex.
Okay, I'm going to take a minute to get started here. And first, I just want to say thank you to the board and everybody for allowing me to share some information tonight and update you on where we are with data protection and privacy as a district. So the first thing I want to do is just take a minute to kind of walk through Ed Law 2D. The New York State law is actually passed around 2014. It requires our school districts to take significant measures in securing and protecting personally identifiable information, or PI, of students, classroom teachers, and building principals, specifically those three groups. And it really is a systematic approach to protecting data and making sure our data stays private, it's kept accessible to us, but not to others, and that we don't share anything with the public or online that we shouldn't. And we're going to be looking tonight, I'm just going to share a few components of it, is educating our employees as well as communicating with the public, maintaining systems that are viable and strong, and continuously updating how we're managing data as well as who we're doing business with in the district. The second slide here is, so what kind of data is protected? And this is important for all of us to know. So the first thing is with student data. We probably have more data on students than any other group in the district. It could be student parent names. It could be their student ID number, email address, home address. It could be a photo, birth date, medical information we have on file at the nurse's office. It could be the special ed information. It could be an IEP. It could be a 504. These are examples of protected student data that we have a responsibility to maintain and to keep private. The other two groups, as I mentioned, are teacher and principals. Personally identifiable information from the records of an educational agency relating to APPR of classroom teachers is confidential and not subject to be released. So we all know that if a parent who's assigned a child, or their son or daughter is assigned to a classroom teacher, the parent does have the right to ask for that teacher's APPR score. But what they don't have the right to, or anyone has the right to, is ask for wholesale information about all teachers or principals in a district to be published. So that's another responsibility we have, is to make sure any of that performance data is kept private and secure for our teachers and our principals. So the next part is training and supervision. According to Ed Law 2D, we do have a requirement to provide annual training for all employees who have access to protected data. Usually the rule of thumb is if you have an email, you have access to protected data, and you're going to have to be trained. The other part is each district must have a data protection officer or a DPO to oversee the implementation.
That's you.
And that would be me, yes. So in moving forward, it's kind of an interesting role because, as you all know, I'm not the leader of technology. We have people that are very versed in this to do a great job. We have instructional coaches do a nice job on the instructional side, but it's really interesting in terms of a process. And I get to work with BOCES and Jason Clark and Cindy Rick. I get to work with our legal team. I get to work with our board policy committee. I get to work with our administrators. I get to work with Don. So I get to work with a little bit of everybody and slowly move this process forward. So for example, just with the required training, I'm working with Jason Clark at BOCES. We have a slide deck that we'll be using. We'll be working with Missy Mary, who's one of our people, one of our leaders in our tech team, creating a database of teachers, have them take this presentation, look at the presentation, and work through it once we return to school. But it's a really kind of a privileged position to be able to work with so many different groups to make sure that as we move forward, that we're meeting the requirements of Ed Law 2D. The next part is communication. And I think it's important that, first of all, our parents, they know their rights, and this is a requirement under Ed Law 2D, the right for their child's data, or theirs in some cases, to be kept secure and supplemented with information about each agreement with third-party contractors posted on the website. So as we work through this and create a Bill of Rights, we will have a responsibility to say, hey, these are the third-party contractors, you being a party, us being a party in this other group, that we're sharing your information with, and we have confidence, we have a legal binding agreement that they will keep this secure and we won't have to worry about it. So parents have that right. And we're going to start to work through that this summer. It'll be posted on our website at the start of the school year.
And I think it'll go a long way for ensuring everybody that we're paying attention, we're focused, we have systems in place, and that we're going to do a great job with this. The second part is the board policy committee will review the data security and privacy policy annually. We've already gone through our first draft. It's gone through policy committee. It's gone before the board. It's recently, as of this morning, we heard some feedback from legal about some things we might want to amend or some words we want to adjust, change. Then it'll go back to policy and then back to the board for final approval. It was originally due July 1st, and it's been pushed back to October 1st due to some of the challenges associated with COVID. So the standard, so one of the probably the most helpful parts of the law is to say, hey, we're going to give you a set of standards to follow. We're not going to have every district kind of do their own thing. We want you to follow some set standards that will help you in doing this work. And they're the standards set out by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, and it's their cybersecurity framework. And we're looking at 5 components. One is to identify what our risks are, what programs we're using. One of the things I think everybody's going to find very helpful is we're going to be moving towards ClassLink at the start of the year. And what's wonderful about ClassLink, it's web-based. You can access all your files in one place. You can access all your web apps in one place, and it can be used as a single sign-on to get into that, as opposed to, like many of us, having a spreadsheet of multiple passwords and accounts and all that. And it's also going to help us kind of as a filtering tool to say, hey, if it's in ClassLink, we know it's 100% vetted, and we're confident that this is a web app that we can trust. And if it's not there, then we're going to have to do some homework looking at it closely and making sure we have an agreement that we're confident will do what it needs to do. So the other parts of this is we look at, we're protecting and detecting. If we have an issue, if we think there's an issue or some kind of a breach, we're going to be implementing, and we're working with this now, is Lightspeed Relay. It's an internet filter, and it really monitors all the computers in the district as well as Chromebooks. It can monitor what students are you doing on YouTube, or if there's any threats. It's a great tool, and part of this process is going to use this tool to support data protection, privacy, but also keeping our students safe and kind of warding off any potential threats. The other part is the response and recovery. You know, we have a team that's meeting regularly. Don leads a team of his tech leaders that do a wonderful job each and every day reporting if there's a concern or an issue. And we're always moving forward, trying to be very proactive in this work and staying ahead of the curve, as you will. The other part, and this is probably the most challenging part, is the third-party contract. So one of the things that we're going to have to be more thoughtful about is, you know, anytime we share that private information with a third party, we have to, as a district, ensure that we're using product services that include the required language that we're confident that this is a product that we know will not share information, there won't be a breach, or at least they're doing everything in their power to keep those things private. The good news is a lot of the things that we're using right now, we contract through BOCES with, and they do a lot of that homework for us in terms of, you know, making sure that we have the right language, the right contract, but there are some other things we're going to be looking at as we move forward. And it's going to be a very lengthy process, but it's an important part of the process. And again, it goes back to that identify piece, saying we need to know what we're working with to ensure that our information is kept private. And the other part of this is reporting and disclosure. Should there be a breach, what are we going to do? We're going to be developing a process of how to communicate, whether it be with teachers, with principals, with parents, students, about what the information is. When do we communicate? How do we communicate? This could be a very daunting task because it could include every student in the district. It could include students from years ago in the district. This is going to be an interesting part of it. And the reality is, as they would tell us from CityRIC, is it's not a question if, it's a question of when. And how will we respond to this? So again, so far our team has done a wonderful job of kind of staying ahead of the curve, paying attention to things before they become bigger issues. My hope is we'll continue to do that work and to stay ahead of it. The last part is some next steps. Where do we go from here? So we still got to finalize the data security and privacy board policy. And that should be done probably in July. I think we're going to try to squeeze one more meeting in over the summer. We're going to be integrating ClassLink and training staff on how to use it. We want teachers to come to the school year. They want them to be aware of it. I don't think it's going to be a heavy lift, but it's going to be a little bit different than we're used to. I think most districts that use it would say it's an excellent tool. It really streamlines the way we use products online or store information. Again, what's great about it too is you can have access from your phone or at home. The other part of this is we have to continue looking at those third-party contracts and draft the parent bill of rights. The last one is to schedule the required annual training, and that will happen most likely in September, and teachers will have probably about 6 weeks to get it done. And then I think we'll be in pretty good shape. But again, this position is an interesting one because it's managing a process. There's a lot of different components to it. And it's a process that can move very quickly. And some of the challenges we're facing could happen very quickly as well. So it's going to be something that's become a day-to-day part of my function as a DPO. And my hope is that we can continue moving forward and again, stay ahead of it and limit any exposure we have or minimize any threats. So that's kind of the upshot of the DPO position and where we are as a district. Does anybody have any questions?
Chris, it deals with parents, students, administrators. What about Board of Education members? Connie's been excellent in that if a parent wants to contact us, she always contacts us first. But where do we come in with our private information?
Well, you're not identified as one of those three groups. However, if we're doing everything as we should be, everybody's information should be kept private. We're not going to say, well, we're going to do certain things for these three groups. Everybody's information should be kept private. It's not going to change any of our protocols. But in terms of ed law, it basically says these three groups are what we're mostly concerned about. But it doesn't mean that our office staff is going to be treated any differently than our teachers or our students or our administrators. We're going to work on behalf of the district to make sure that all information is kept private. And I think by focusing on those three groups, all the groups will be included under that umbrella.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Leahy, this is a great start, but I'm afraid, this is in response to an ed law that we had to appoint this officer, I'm assuming, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and it's just, I fear that I see this becoming a bigger a part of our everyday business to the point where we may need to farm this out or actually have a body, almost an enterprise risk management staff that'll handle this. This is a big deal. And it seems like, what you rolled out, we're already behind the 8 ball on this because we carry a lot of personal identifiable information that there are people who try to access all the time. So I'm not, no criticism. I just, I've seen this in another role I played and it becomes its own animal. And I think the important piece, and I do see that we have the first reading of the policy. I looked at that. The response, and you made a reference to, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of entities in the corporate world, there's been a significant amount of time or lag between when the hack occurred and when they found out. Yeah. And so I have a lot of concerns there. I'm hoping the state ed department and the legislature is looking at this and follows it up with funding to really support what you're doing in an appropriate way, because it's not something we can do by giving you yet another duty on your shoulders. And nothing against you, but right. This can be big. And as we've seen what's happened through BOCES, was that about a year ago or so? It does concern me a lot, and our ability to respond to that. Do we have it in place? And I'll stop talking in a second. Just a quick question. Where we stand now, we have a lot of our hardware out in the community. When that goes out to a home internet, is it protected or still filtered, or are we under whatever the filter is that they have in the home?
I could respond the best, and Don probably might want to chime in too, but everything that we put out, we have access to. We can shut them all down at a certain point. Our web filters act on those programs, so we would still be alerted. And it's really what we're going to be moving forward with, is just upgrading those systems. Even so, if you go on a YouTube search and you find something inappropriate, we'll be notified. We'll be aware of that sooner as opposed to later. That's the hope. But everything that we put out is covered with our own filter and our own privacy and all that. But you're right. It's a very interesting time that we live in. And in one way, for example, ClassLink is saying, hey, we've got it so secure. We're comfortable with you having access on your phone or on your Chromebook or at your own personal device. So I don't think we're going to change it. And I know you're not suggesting that, Paul. It's really the question of how do we keep it secure as we work in this environment where everybody has a device and information is being shared. And I think ClassLink is going to be a step in the right direction. But I don't know, Don, if you want to add anything.
No, I think you pretty much said it all.
So ClassLink, if I understand it correctly, I mean, they're going to have access to their server or whatever, where their files are from any device they have with the appropriate connection or app or software or whatever. Will that, and I hate to go in this direction, but
Yeah.
I've seen it. I mean, will that reduce or eliminate the need for people to go back and forth with flash drives? I mean, they're not even allowed in some buildings in the corporate world, as some of you probably know. I mean, I know companies that have put super glue in USB drives, or disabled them internally because they are notorious for transferring malware, viruses, and stuff.
Yeah, it's all web-based or cloud-based, so everything will be there. It's much like I would think like Google Drive, but what's great is they can link into Google Drive if they use certain apps with their class, for example, let's say Seesaw or something else their teachers are using, that will be there. So they sign on and they get into those very quickly. But what it allows us to do is kind of filter everything that goes into that system before it gets in there. And that makes it a little bit more manageable in terms of worrying about those third-party contracts, saying, hey, if it's not in there, if it's not in ClassLink, there's a reason. The reason why is we haven't looked at it closely, or we're not 100% confident it belongs in there. So I think it's going to be a step forward, but I'm with you, Paul. I mean, we're not going to change the fact that kids are going to be accessing things from home. Our teachers need access from home. Heaven forbid we're in another closure system, kind of a situation. But I think ClassLink is going to move us forward in the right direction. I think Lightspeed Relay is going to help us with that too, in identifying problems or threats. So my hope is we're, again, trying to stay ahead of the curve, trying to stay on top of it, paying attention, prioritizing it. But I agree, it's going to be a heavy lift. And my hope is it's about me coordinating the right people in the teams and a communication system and strategy to move the district forward in a time where, we've got some challenges.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great start.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, our next item is Board of Education Committee reports. And so I will start with Ms. Scanlon and policy.
Thank you, Paul. We had our last policy committee meeting for the school year on Monday, the 8th. We reviewed 7 policies and 7 are on tonight's agenda, or 6 are on tonight's agenda. 3 are a readopt without change, 3 are amend and readopt, and we had 1 outstanding for the year where we're waiting for the New York State Department of Health guidelines. So that one will roll into possibly our summer meeting that Chris had mentioned. The one is a first reading of the new board policy that was Chris's presentation tonight. And I just wanted to say a little bit about my committee. I'm very proud of these guys. They're all superstars. Everyone is respectful. They show up, they're prepared, they participate, they take their job seriously. They're very committed. They're very thorough in their research, in their investigation, and they are an amazing group and a pleasure to work with. And our 2 student reps this year were Alex Nobles, who is also our salutatorian for the class of 2020. And we had Jacqueline Capoli, and they are both seniors, and we're going to be losing them because they're graduating and moving on to the next chapter of their lives. So we wish them well. And I just want to read the list of our members and give my thanks and appreciation to them. Our parent reps are Kristen Anderson and Cheryl McDonald. And then our student reps, as I mentioned, Jacqueline Capoli and Alex Nobles. And then our faculty and staff is Carol Gaynor, Chris Leahy, Jason Nephew, Tim Benarski, Bill DeFlorio, Don Keegan, Kathy Wheeler, Dan Bowles, Bill LeClaire, and Donna Marie Norton. And we have Mark Thorne and Paul Farfalia and Michael Maurizio, our board member reps, as well as myself. And we couldn't do any of this without Connie Gibson. She keeps us all organized and make sure that we have everything up to date and all our policies scheduled. She's very prepared, and I want to thank you, Connie. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, Mary.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Okay,
That's
thank
it.
you. Thank you, Mrs. Scanlon. Mr. Crabtree, I know you have an upcoming legislative committee.
And that's all I'll talk about is the legislative committee meeting will be next week, June 24th, 5 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent Bowles, comments, please. You have to unmute first, however, sir.
I'd like to start out by saying I miss Flag Day because that would have been the 14th, and many of you go to Lakeshore that has a Flag Day in many of our elementary schools, but I was reminded my Flag Day tie that I pulled out of the closet, but we will revisit that next year when we get there. The returning of materials, students were returning materials starting today, Chromebooks. I do want to say the teachers, administrators, everybody, the teaching assistants, it was a well-oiled machine in many of the locations that were returning materials and kids collecting materials. People were maintaining social distancing, and there were different locations established so that people could collect and retrieve materials from the students and families. The senior walks were phenomenal this past Friday. Seniors were able to go back in their vehicles to the schools and see their teachers, and it was just a wonderful day. People were standing in the yards and just having a wonderful time with the seniors coming back to the buildings. I was in my neighborhood walking around, and the amount of lawn signs that say either CNS senior or if they're senior CNS students, and people have balloons, and they've really shown a lot of pride. And I walked for quite some time, and they are just a spotlight for the families and the students. We have been doing a lot of work, and we'll be putting out information on a weekly basis when we get into the summer, but we do have re-entry committees that are established, some subcommittees, and we want to make sure we're getting information on a weekly basis out to not only board members, but community members, teachers, so that people can be updated on the work that's being done over the summer. As we come to a close with the students ending today, staff is ending on Wednesday, but there's a lot of work that's going to be happening behind the scenes, and it's already started. I do want to let people know that we are going to be starting with some goals and working on some things over the summer about culturally responsive practices. And what that is about is to be able to understand and consider different cultures, their backgrounds of the students that they teach, and it provides effective teaching and learning in culturally supportive context. Student strengths are brought to the school, are identified, nurtured, and it promotes student achievement. So that's an area that we're going to be looking at as we're going into next school year. And the last comment that I have is, I just want to say, and I echo what Mary Scanlon said, Connie Gibson has been absolutely amazing during this entire time. We had put out 40,000 ballots, the most of any area, except for maybe the Syracuse City, but the work, effort, the commitment, the organization has been absolutely wonderful. And we're not going to come back together as a board until July 6th. But again, it's been an incredible operation. And I want to just, again, publicly, Connie, say thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the support I had from staff and administration. Thank you.
Bravo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bowles. Any other comments or reflections from any other Board of Education members or anybody else?
I have a few comments. Just a few. This Thursday, we will be having our Board of Education meeting for BOCES, but a special event will happen at 5:30 where we honor all our retirees in a virtual ceremony. And Colleen Vigiano, our Deputy Superintendent, will read something about each person. So that happens on Thursday. Also, I got the schedule for graduations, and I'm sure Dan Bowles will get it, but many of our CNS students will be graduating. Last year, Dan and Annette went to the special Crossroads and Crown Road campus. And I know Aaron McDonald went 2 years ago. It's a very special ceremony. Years ago, these students wouldn't have graduated, and they'll be graduating. And that'll be on Thursday, June 25th at 12 o'clock. And I will send the place where you go to see that. A lot of our students will be graduating from Innovation Tech, and also CTE will be Friday, June 26th at 12. There are probably close to 100 kids graduating from our school district in our programs. So we should be very, very proud of that. On Friday, George Harrington and his many, many, many grandchildren and myself went over to Allen Road because it's a short hop and skip from my house. And what a parade, as Dan said, of the students decorating their cars with ARE for Allen Road and a lot of parents. It was just phenomenal. As you know, Allen Road is our last neighborhood school. And I'm so glad I live in that neighborhood. It's the last one. All the rest have been closed. And I'm so happy to live in this neighborhood as Matt and George do too. But the other thing that was really, really exciting is led by Doreen Bryson, the teachers decorated their cars. Amazing, the decorations that they did, and went through the entire neighborhood. What a great thrill that was for the kids. And they were yelling their teachers' names. And I believe there was over 30 cars in that parade. So a job well done by the Allen Road people. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Crabtree. Anything else? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go on to our routine action items. If I could get a motion for item A, which are the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Education from June 1st, 2020. Motion, please. Motion from Mr. Harrington, seconded by Ms. McDonald. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, hands up so Mrs. Gibson can see them. Any opposed? That motion is carried. If I could take items B and C and combine them together, if I could get a motion to do that, a motion from Mr. Maurizio, second from Ms. Scanlon. B and C are the classifications for disabled students for District on Committee Special Ed and for the District Committee on Preschool Special Ed. What is before us? Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, opposed, that item is carried unanimously. And a motion, please, for item D, the acknowledgement of business office reports for April 2020. Motion from Ms. McDonald, second by Mr. Maurizio. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Discussion action items. Item A, can we put that before us with a motion, please? Motion from Mr. Maurizio, second from Mr. Harrington. That is the establishment of the annual organizational meeting date. With passing of this, we will be having that meeting on July 6, 2020. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Item B, could I get a motion to place that before us, please? Motion from Mr. Herman, second by Ms. McDonald. That is a resolution to abolish and create the instructional and the civil service positions. If I could just have Jason, could you speak to that just briefly? Because there were a lot of items in there and they will be reflected in Personnel A little bit later.
Yes, these are the annual creations and abolishments related to the budget. And we know that we're still awaiting the budget vote to be completed and know, but we do this now so that we can have all of our administrative teams prepared to be able to begin the hiring process as soon as the budget does pass and we can get moving on that. Additionally, it also includes, and you'll see in Personnel A, that it does include people who would either be accessed from their building or laid off from employment. As you've heard from us before in this process, we had a minimal number of people who were displaced completely from work. They are on a preferred eligible list, and a number of our folks are being called back into long-term sub positions, so they'll have employment and insurance and so forth. But that's all in this bundle that we do every year for budget time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nephews. Any questions on that, folks? Okay, seeing none, that is before us. All in favor?
Reluctantly.
Opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. And item C, I'd like to have that, a motion to place that before us. Motion from Ms. Scanlon, second from Mr. Thorne. That is a change order for North Syracuse High School. That's before us. Any questions? I do have a quick question, Mr. I guess it'd be for Mr. Keegan. That's all the information we received in the Friday letter with those pictures. So if I understood that correctly, we're just approving a change orders here. I noticed that the other roofing projects along with this one were under budget. This
Yes.
requires no further expenditures.
That's correct.
Okay. The one thing that struck me, and I guess I was reading it correctly, it's going to be a year and a half before we expect construction to begin on those things that were discovered.
Well, it's two pieces. The brick wall repair will be potentially delayed that long, but the underlayment that needs to be installed is going to be done as the roof is completed.
Okay. So those that structure I saw that was built to withstand that's there to last for that.
Hold that section of wall up. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
The
Anybody
wall
else?
The wall sustained damage over time, probably from the deterioration of the roof. So water got behind that wall and froze and thawed, and over, it's an old building, and over time just compromised that brick structure. So that definitely has to be repaired, and this is the opportune time to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else with questions on that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some. Has the roof been completed at Allen Road?
Yes.
It's all done. There won't be any more workers over there.
Shouldn't be. I mean, not unless it's, we're putting additional walkways so that we can access sections. But
yeah, they've been working. Yeah, I saw that. How about Gillette Road? Is that
the
done?
same thing at Gillette. Gillette's completely done as well, except for those little walkways the guys are putting on the roof that allow us to access certain mechanical areas without damaging the roof.
So will the junior high roof be completed?
The junior high roof should be completed except for this wall construction
right
by the end of the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, all in favor of C, change orders? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And item D, surplus of marketable and non-marketable goods. If I get a motion to place that before us, motion from Ms. Kruger, seconded from Mr. Harrington. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is also carried. Ms. Scanlon reported on the policy, so with your approval, I'll combine E, F, G, H, and I together as if I could get a motion to do that. Motion from Mr. Thorne, second from Ms. McDonald. We have all the policies together. You heard the report on those. And there is a first reading of our data security and privacy, of course. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the following retirements. We have Teresa Brown, School Secretary 2, retires with 21 years of service. We have Julie Dunn, custodial worker 1, retires with 23 years of service. Sally Myers, our systems administrator, retires at 21.2 years of service. And Cheryl Schultz, teaching assistant, retires with 16 years of service. So I thank those people for their service to North Syracuse and wish them luck and health in their retirement. Okay, on to items, part 7, which is personnel reports. A, do we have a need for an executive session before I put item A before us?
I like to make a motion to go to executive session to discuss personnel A.
Okay, we have a motion. Could I get a second for the motion to go into executive session?
second.
From Ms. McDonald. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of going into executive session? Opposed? Okay, we are going to recess into executive session. I think everybody received your link, so you will leave this meeting, is my understanding. We'll be able to sign back in when we're done. So I will see you there. So Mrs. Gibson, we had a motion from Bob and a second from, I think it was Matt. You can correct me if not, to
No,
exit
no.
executive session.
No, oh, well, for executive, yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we now have exited executive session and I call the meeting back to order. Is that sufficient?
Yeah.
Okay, then I would need a motion to put instructional personnel report A before the board. Motion from Ms. Kruger, seconded from Ms. Scanlon. Discussion.
I make a motion to table athletics athletics winter 2020-21. The head varsity girls basketball and the head varsity boys basketball. I think there needs to be more discussion and I would like to table it until July 6th.
Okay, we need a second for that to have a discussion on that. We have a second from Ms. McDonald. Okay, so that the motion to table is before us. Is there just, this is a motion to postpone technically. So is there a discussion on that?
Yeah, I guess my discussion is going to happen now. I was going to wait, but we are looking at 2 new coaches for head varsity girls basketball and varsity boys basketball. And it very disappoints me that our 2 incumbent coaches are leaving. And I want to say a little bit about each one of them. John Haas played here in Central New York at CBA High School and went to college at Lemoyne. We hired him as a teacher either at Rocks Mill or Rocks Out, and then transferred to Gillette Road. He's an excellent 6th grade teacher, expertise in math. He continues helping our young people day in and day out. I don't know how many years he's been our varsity basketball coach, but I've gone to many games as George Harrington has, and four previous superintendents. He's been our varsity basketball coach. He shows leadership, and he started a youth program in this school district, and we have hundreds of elementary and middle school students involved in this program, and it wouldn't have happened without John Haas. The thing that really touches my heart about John Haas is this year we won the county championship 10 years ago. And he was honored with that whole team coming back to CNS. I was there, Mr. Bowles was there, and many other people, to honor him as a coach and what they did. I want to thank you, John Haas, if you're watching, for everything that you did for our school district. Thank you. Eric Smith, physical education teacher at Gillette Road. 16 years ago, Eric met with myself and Mike Horvath to start a Girls Optimist program so that we would have a feeders program for our school district. It is expanded, as Mr. Bowles knows, as he's come to these games, to over 150 girls, grades 3 through 9. Look at all the number of star players that have gone through our program through his leadership. Brianna Stewart, Sarah Bowles, Jessica Cook, and hundreds of other girls who led us to state championships, sectional championships. And without his leadership, this never would have happened. He's always been a player's coach. He's dedicated his whole being to being part of our CNS program to be the best in the state and the nation. I want to thank both these gentlemen. I am disappointed that you are not coming back, but thank you for all that you have done. And I will end there.
Okay, do we have other comments? Okay, seeing none, the motion before us is to postpone on those two items. You call it table, it's technically a postpone. So we will take a vote. So the raise of a hand at this point is going to be a yay, which means you're voting to postpone. So all in favor, raise your hands. We have 1, 2. Okay, and opposed to table, hands up, please. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. Okay, so that motion to postpone is defeated. Okay, we have before us then instructional personnel report A. It's still
I ask
there.
you, Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. President, to remove athletics winter 2020-21 as a separate vote.
As a separate vote?
Yes.
Okay. Then we are going to now, since we have the, well, I believe Mrs. Gibson, I would have to vote. We need a second on that to vote and remove that piece, or can I just do that?
I'm not sure you can even remove it. I think you have to take it as a whole for personnel A.
I think we've done it in the past.
Not recently. I think we had a ruling on that where it's an all or nothing, but if you choose to remove those two and try to make a motion and go through.
Okay, then we'll do that as a motion to remove the winter men's basketball and women's basketball varsity level. I get a second on that. Okay, we have a second from Mr. Maurizio. All in favor of removing those two from A and having a separate vote, raise their hands. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, 4. I see 5. Okay, 6. Okay, all there's 6, and so all opposed. I'm going to oppose that, but that is carried 6, 2 or 3. Do you want to count that again, or are you all right, Mrs. Gibson?
Yeah, for the no's, I have Paul and Mark. I need one more that may have voted no.
That's
Or
right.
one more that voted yes.
Terry, we have Terry. Okay.
Right, okay.
Okay, that means that is removed. So why don't we now vote on instructional personnel report A, except for those two pieces that we will then put before us right afterwards. So are we all clear on what we're voting on? Instructional personnel report A. All in favor?
I need a motion.
I'm sorry. Need a motion for personnel report A. Motion from Mary, second from Mike Maurizio. Personnel report A minus the men's and women's varsity basketball. All in favor of that?
I got some comments.
Okay.
Don't before that.
Well, this is okay.
Has nothing to do with what I'm going to say. I have some questions for Mr. Jason. Why are there so many changes in teaching assistants to buildings? Is it because they bid for these jobs?
Yes, we about a week ago, we conducted what we call the TA draft. It's the teaching assistant version of Big Board. And so we had a number of retirements, if you remember. We did have reductions, but we had a total of 10 retirements and resignations, which opened up a number of positions for people to switch. And as you know, if one person, say, leaves Cicero L to go to Lakeshore, and someone else goes to Cicero L from Allen, there's these lines of dominoes that occur. So it looks like a lot of changes, but it's just the resolution of those voluntary transfers.
And I think I know the answer, Jason, to my second question. So on here are all the layoffs for staffing. And then we also removed the part-time people. And therefore, some of these people that are on the preferred eligible list will probably getting into these part-time and permanent sub-jobs, right? Correct?
Yes. Yep. And over the next few weeks, we'll be finishing the process of recalling the laid off folks back to the long-term sub opportunities in the different buildings. And hopefully very soon we'll have those all finalized. So
And
we have
so
a
we'll
bit more
see
work to
that,
do.
starting with our next meeting, July 6th, we'll start seeing these people come back, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other comments on Personnel A? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, Personnel A is carried. Then can I get a motion to put the Personnel A item that we removed, which is winter coaches and men's varsity basketball, women's varsity basketball appointments before us? A motion, please. Motion from Ms. Kruger, seconded from Mr. Thorne. Any discussion on that item? Any further discussion?
I would just like to say that the way I am voting has nothing to do with Mr. Seitchen or Mr. Martin, but I will be voting no because I feel this should have been tabled and there should have been more discussion about reasons of the original coaches leaving. So I'll be voting no.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointment, raise your hands, please. Okay, all opposed? Okay, I think we had, you got that, Connie, 7-2? Okay, thank you. All right, support staff, item B, if I get a motion to place that before us. Item B, a motion from Mr. Harrington, seconded from Ms. Kruger. Any discussion on Personnel B? Seeing none, all in favor of that? Raise your hands, please. Thank you. Okay, opposed? Personnel B is carried. Okay, at this time, I will be making a motion to move into executive session. The purpose will be for receiving an update on one legal matter relative to potential litigation and to review the employment record of 2 individuals with no action to follow. Can I get a second on that, please? A second from Ms. McDonald. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And a motion, please, to adjourn. Motion from Mr. Maurizio, second from Mr. Thorne. Any discussion on adjournment? All in favor? Okay, opposed? No oppositions to adjournment. We are adjourned.